So I've had a request video from handle Alverta W. Hi Alverta. A fascinating request on the history of fashion magazines. Way back before fashion magazines, there were books and brochures published that dealt with the general news, rather like a newspaper or a publication that dealt with the latest fashion ideas within that news too. As far as I have researched, the idea of a fashion magazine does not exist back in the 1400s. Now, before books and magazines, obviously the fashion knowledge came from the aristocracy and the royalty which got passed down. Which is why in the medieval period, only the wealthy followed fashion. And the peasants, of course, just wore the same everyday clothes. Fashion for the wealthy was shared through travelling merchants, travelling from abroad. The cloth merchants showing brochures and cards for their fancy materials for sale that went with the fashions from Europe. And also, of course, if you were rich enough to be able to go to galleries, paintings and sculptures showed you the latest European fashions. Now, the very earliest form of a fashion item that gave out the latest information goes back to, and I have to read this, I'm sorry, the Gynaeceum Sivae Theatrum Mulierum, which is the Gynaeceum or Theatre of Women, by Jose Amon, published in 1586, which was a brochure depicting female costumes from across Europe, showcasing the latest trends for the wealthy. Or books like this one that was called the Diversarium Gentium Nostrae Aetatis Habitus by Enea Vico, published in 1558, sharing clothing styles from different countries and different social classes. And there was this, the Omnium Ferae Gentium Habitus, 1563, by Fernando Bertelli. And this translates to the habit of almost all peoples, which was a series of books in the 16th century of the clothing of various ethnic groups and peoples across Europe and around the world. The very first, though, magazine or actual book that dedicated completely to fashion was this, called the Mercure Galant, a literary gazette literally showing all the latest fashions. And the French, of course, who will always lead fashion, circulated fashion plates, as they were called, which were like cards of drawings and engravings. They made those popular. 1785 to 9 was published in Paris, and a regular publication now with hand-coloured engravings and fashion was called the Cabinet des Modes, with coloured pictures and engravings. Had over 800 subscribers in its first year. The first British fashion magazine that was published in London, 1794 to 1805, was called the Gallery of Fashion. It was mainly women's fashions, and it tried to separate itself this time from the French fashions because of the Napoleonic Wars that were going on. Now, another brochure type fashion publication, a French one again, this time came out 1797 to 1839, called the Journal des Dames et des Modes. And this was a series of 3 books replacing the Journal de la Mode et du Goût. And these all now started the foundations for the more modern fashion magazine industry. Much later, 1829 to 1902, was Le Follet. Then a London-based magazine from 1852 to 79 was another set of books, but this was an English woman's domestic magazine, which gave us dress patterns, aimed for the middle classes now. And household and management stories. This one shows you how you should deal with the whipping of girls. And this page tells us how we can make a solid pudding. Sounds delicious. 1842 to 1904 became the Ladies' Gazette of Fashion, which was a British periodical devoting to fashion. Another British fashion magazine by John Bell from 1824 to 51 was now a monthly edition, and this was called The World of Fashion and Continental Feuilleton, translates as publication or periodical. Up to now, the fashion magazines had mainly been directed for women. Now, the Harper's Bazaar, this was founded in 1867, and it's the oldest fashion magazine and is still in operation today. All leading to the Vogue 1892, which is now the leading fashion magazine in the world. Here we have Elle, which became about in 1945. And here is Allure, which started in 1991. And the latest fashion items is Grazia UK, which will be published online next month in August 2025. And Grazia UK was first published in 2005. Now, I'm sure there are many more magazines in between all these that came and went over the years. I hope I've given you an overview of how the fashion magazine evolved and developed over time. And if you've enjoyed another little historical fashion item, do join me again next time. Until then, bye!